The construction of the Suez Canal stands as one of humanity's most daring feats, a 120-mile thread that stitched two seas together. This monumental undertaking not only revolutionized global trade, but also forever altered the course of human history. As we embark on this journey, we find ourselves at the threshold of an epic tale of vision, perseverance, and transformation. In the scorching deserts of Egypt, where the sun dips into the horizon and paints the sky with hues of crimson and gold, the concept of a waterway connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea had been a tantalizing prospect for centuries. The idea of bridging these two bodies of water, separated by a mere 120 miles of arid land, had long fascinated pharaohs, merchants, and explorers alike. As early as the 13th century BC, during the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II, attempts were made to construct a canal that would facilitate trade and commerce between Egypt and the Eastern world. The ancient Egyptians, renowned for their engineering prowess, had successfully built canals and waterways along the Nile River, but connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea proved to be a far more daunting task. The desert landscape with its shifting sands and lack of fresh water posed significant challenges to any would-be constructor. Despite these obstacles, the dream of a Suez Canal persisted, with various rulers and empires attempting to revive the project over the centuries. One such attempt was made during the reign of Pharaoh Necho II in the 6th century BC. Although this endeavor was ultimately abandoned, it marked an important milestone in the history of the Suez Canal, as it demonstrated the feasibility of constructing a waterway across the Isthmus of Suez. The ancient Greeks, too, were fascinated by the prospect of a Suez Canal. The philosopher Aristotle, in his work Meteorology, wrote about the possibility of connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea via a canal. The Greek historian Polybius also mentioned the idea, noting that it would greatly facilitate trade between Europe and Asia. As the centuries passed, the concept of a Suez Canal continued to captivate the imagination of rulers, merchants, and explorers. The rise of the Roman Empire, with its extensive network of roads, bridges, and canals, brought new attention to the project. The Roman prefect of Egypt, Aelius Gallus, even attempted to construct a canal in the 1st century BC, but his efforts were ultimately thwarted by the harsh desert environment. Despite these setbacks, the dream of a Suez Canal persisted, driven by the promise of increased trade, commerce, and cultural exchange between East and West. As the Middle Ages gave way to the Renaissance, the idea of a canal continued to simmer, waiting for the right combination of technological advancements, economic incentives, and visionary leadership to bring it to fruition. And so, we find ourselves at the threshold of a new era, one in which the construction of the Suez Canal would become a reality, forever changing the course of human history. In the early 19th century, as European powers began to expand their colonial empires, the strategic importance of a Suez Canal became increasingly apparent. The British, in particular, were keenly aware of the potential benefits of a waterway that could connect their Indian colonies to the Mediterranean, thereby reducing travel time and increasing trade. De Lesseps, who had served as a diplomat in Egypt and had developed a deep understanding of the region's geography and culture, became convinced that a canal could be built, and he dedicated himself to making this vision a reality. De Lesseps's enthusiasm for the project was not shared by all, however. Many experts of the time believed that constructing a canal across the Isthmus of Suez was impossible, citing the harsh desert conditions, the lack of fresh water, and the immense cost of such a project. Undeterred, de Lesseps embarked on a series of expeditions to Egypt, where he conducted extensive surveys and gathered data on the feasibility of a canal. His findings, which included detailed maps and geological reports, would eventually form the basis of his proposal for the construction of the Suez Canal. As de Lesseps delved deeper into his research, he became increasingly convinced that a canal could be built, and he began to share his vision with others. In 1847, he presented his findings to the French government, but his proposal was met with skepticism. Undeterred, de Lesseps continued to refine his plans, and in 1854, he founded the Suez Canal Company, a consortium of French and Egyptian investors who shared his vision for a canal. One of de Lesseps's most crucial allies was Said Pasha, the viceroy of Egypt, who had recently come to power. Said was eager to modernize his country and saw the Suez Canal as a key component of this effort. He granted de Lesseps a concession to build the canal, and in 1856, the two men signed an agreement that would pave the way for the construction of the waterway. The terms of the concession were significant. De Lesseps' company would be responsible for building the canal, which would be approximately 160 kilometers long and would take an estimated 10 years to complete. The company would also be granted a 99-year lease on the canal, after which it would revert to Egyptian control. In return, the Egyptian government would provide the company with a significant amount of land and resources, including thousands of workers who would be employed to build the canal. With the concession in hand, de Lesseps set about assembling a team of engineers and technicians who would oversee the construction of the canal. One of his key hires was Louis Albert Fauroux, a brilliant French engineer who had experience building canals in France. Fauroux would play a crucial role in designing the canal's locks and waterways, which would be one of the most complex and challenging aspects of the project. As the plans for the canal took shape, de Lesseps and his team encountered their first major obstacle, the Isthmus of Suez itself. The region was a vast, arid desert, with temperatures often reaching 40 degrees Celsius during the day and plummeting to near freezing at night. The soil was also notoriously unstable, consisting of shifting sands and treacherous quicksand that made it difficult to build stable foundations. Despite these challenges, de Lesseps remained optimistic, convinced that the benefits of the canal would far outweigh the costs. He envisioned a waterway that would not only facilitate trade between Europe and Asia, but also bring prosperity and modernity to Egypt itself. As he wrote in his memoirs, "The Suez Canal will be a work of peace, a monument to the genius of humanity, and a testament to the power of international cooperation." In 1859, de Lesseps and his team broke ground on the canal, marking the beginning of one of the most ambitious engineering projects of the 19th century. The work would be grueling, with thousands of workers laboring in brutal conditions to build the canal's locks, dams, and waterways. But as the project progressed, it became clear that the Suez Canal would be more than just a feat of engineering. It would be a symbol of human ingenuity and a testament to the power of vision and determination. As the construction of the canal got underway, de Lesseps faced numerous challenges, from the logistical nightmare of transporting thousands of workers and tons of equipment across the desert, to the complex technical problems of building a waterway that would connect two seas. But he persevered, driven by his conviction that the Suez Canal would be a game-changer for global trade and commerce. One of the most significant challenges de Lesseps faced was the problem of excavating the canal itself. The Isthmus of Suez was a vast sandy plain, with no natural waterway or valley to follow. This meant that the entire length of the canal would have to be dug from scratch, using a combination of manual labor and primitive machinery. To overcome this challenge, de Lesseps turned to a French engineer named Edouard Martel, who had developed an innovative new technique for excavating canals using a combination of dredges and steam-powered pumps. Martel's system allowed workers to excavate the canal at a rate of several kilometers per month, a pace that was unprecedented in the history of canal building. As the excavation work progressed, de Lesseps also began to focus on the construction of the canal's locks, which would be used to raise and lower ships between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. The locks were a critical component of the canal, requiring precise engineering and massive amounts of stone and concrete to build. De Lesseps hired a team of skilled stonemasons from France and Italy to work on the locks, using local limestone and granite to construct the massive structures. As the locks neared completion, de Lesseps turned his attention to the final stretch of the canal, where it would connect with the Red Sea. This section proved particularly challenging due to the presence of a high bank of sand and rock, known as the Isthmian Plateau, which rose over 20 meters above the surrounding terrain. To overcome this obstacle, de Lesseps employed a combination of dredging and blasting, using explosives to break up the harder rock formations. Meanwhile, the excavation work on the canal itself was nearing its end. On November 15, 1869, the Suez Canal was officially open to navigation, with the French ship Le Pelouse being the first to pass through the canal. The opening ceremony was attended by dignitaries from around the world, including the Khedive of Egypt, Ismail Pasha, and the French Empress Eugénie. The initial passage of ships through the canal was slow and laborious, with vessels often having to wait for hours or even days to navigate the narrow waterway. However, as the canal's operators gained experience and made adjustments to the navigation procedures, the transit time began to decrease. By the early 1870s, the Suez Canal had become a major artery of international trade, with hundreds of ships passing through it every month. One of the key figures in the operation of the Suez Canal was Ferdinand de Lesseps himself, who continued to play an active role in the canal's management even after its completion. He worked tirelessly to promote the canal and attract new business, traveling extensively throughout Europe and Asia to meet with shipping companies and government officials. As the years passed, the Suez Canal underwent numerous improvements and expansions, including the addition of new locks and the deepening of the waterway to accommodate larger ships. In 1875, the Suez Canal Company, which had been established by de Lesseps to manage the canal, was granted a concession by the Egyptian government to operate the canal for a period of 99 years. The construction of the Suez Canal had a profound impact on the economy and politics of Egypt, transforming the country into a major hub of international trade and commerce. The canal also had significant geopolitical implications, as it provided a shortcut for ships traveling between Europe and Asia and gave European powers a new degree of influence over the region. In 1882, the British government, which had long been interested in gaining control of the Suez Canal, invaded Egypt and established a protectorate over the country. The British takeover marked the beginning of a new era in the history of the Suez Canal, as the canal became a key strategic asset in the British Empire's global network of trade and communication. Under British management, the Suez Canal continued to thrive, with the number of ships passing through it increasing steadily over the years. In 1888, the Convention of Constantinople was signed, which guaranteed the neutrality of the Suez Canal and ensured that it would remain open to ships of all nations in times of war and peace. The Suez Canal's importance continued to grow throughout the 20th century, with the canal playing a critical role in both World War I and World War II. In 1956, the Suez Crisis erupted as Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal Company, leading to a brief but intense conflict between Egypt and an alliance of British, French, and Israeli forces. The aftermath of the Suez Crisis marked a significant turning point in the history of the canal, as the United Nations intervened to establish a peacekeeping force and ensure the free passage of ships through the waterway. In 1964, the Suez Canal Authority was established by the Egyptian government to manage the canal, which has since become one of the busiest and most important shipping lanes in the world. Today, the Suez Canal is a vital artery of international trade, with over 17,000 vessels passing through it every year. The canal's operations are managed by the Suez Canal Authority, which continues to invest in new technologies and infrastructure to ensure the safe and efficient passage of ships. As the global economy continues to evolve, the Suez Canal remains a critical component of the international trade system, a testament to the vision and perseverance of Ferdinand de Lesseps and the thousands of workers who built it over 150 years ago. The construction of the Suez Canal stands as a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, a monumental achievement that has reshaped the course of global commerce, politics, and culture. Its impact echoes through the centuries, a reminder that even the most ambitious endeavors can leave an indelible mark on the world. The Suez Canal's enduring legacy serves as a powerful symbol of what can be achieved when vision, determination, and collaboration come together to defy the impossible. Thank you for joining me throughout this historical journey. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.